Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm going to be your host for this afternoon session. It should last around about 45 minutes. We're looking at budgets, and we split budgets into two parts. So part one, we're looking at the standard budgeting method, and in part two, which we'll be covering next week, we'll be covering the advanced methods. So the advanced methods are available if you're on the standard level of Sage 50 accounts or the professional level. They're not available if you're on the essentials level. So just myself that's going to be covering the session with you today, but we'll quickly run through a little bit of housekeeping just before we get started. So if you are new to webinars, so welcome along. I hope you do enjoy the sessions. Do make use of both the live sessions and the recordings. So today, obviously, we'll be running through the webinar. I'll be sharing my screens, sharing some slides. Now, if you've got a microphone and you have enabled it, which it doesn't look like anyone's enabled a microphone today, which is great, but if you do have one and you do enable it, you will find it's muted automatically. Now that means any questions for me today, they will need to be typed into the questions panel. To access that, you just, on your taskbar down the right, you just need to click the little speech bubble icon. When you do that, it'll expand the panel. You get access to the box in the bottom corner, and that's where you can submit any comments or questions that you have. So remember to click send as well. We're quite good on the webinars, and we probably predict and cover the majority of questions that we're likely to get anyway, but we're not that good. If you've got any questions, you need to click send, otherwise we don't see it. I'm sure we've all had that where you've typed a message in Teams or you've popped it in WhatsApp or something like that. You forgot to press send and you wonder why you haven't had a response. So pop it in there, click send. I'll try my best to pick those up for you. If anyone wants a copy of today's slides, there's not a great deal of information on the slides because it will nearly all be demo today. And the slides are never meant to be detailed guides on what we cover. If you want the detailed information or sort of step-by-step guide on entering budgets, etc., you will find that available from our help center. But if you do want to copy the slides just to jog your memory a little bit here and there, maybe you want to add a few notes as you go, then you can download those during the session. As normal, the session is being recorded, and the recording will be made available to you afterwards. So afterwards, around about now after you finish, you receive an email. It will include a link to the recording of today's session. It'll include a link so you can register for our upcoming webinars. I'll tell you more about what we've got coming up towards the end of the session. And it'll also include a link to our recordings list as well. So if there's any sessions you've missed, maybe it's an easier way for you to take advantage of the webinar service, then those are available as well. Okay, so let's have a look at what I'm going to be covering with you all in the session today. So this is our agenda. So we're going to start with a brief introduction to budgets. We'll then just run through a series of demonstrations, so how you can set and check your method, where you do that in the software. We'll look at entering budgets, so a couple of different options for that one, including importing them as well. So importing will pick up on the similar sort of options for either entering individual monthly budgets or an annual budget. So you'll see that in action. Sometimes it can be a little bit quicker to import your budgets than manually enter them, because a lot of people do prepare their budgets outside of Sage. We'll touch on reports, and then, as I mentioned, I would always encourage, if you can, give it a go. Now, this is something you can give it a go with either on your live data. You could always wipe out your budgets afterwards if you're not using them yet. Don't give it a go if you've already got some budgets entered. Only give it a go if you've never touched it before. Or there are other options as well, such as using budgets within the demo data and practice company. And I'll tell you more about that when we get to the end. Just at the end, we will explain more about the additional support that's available. And then if there are any outstanding questions, I'll try and pick those up as well. So do bear with me with the questions. As I say, I'll try and pick up as many as I can. I will endeavour to get an answer to you by the end of today if I don't get a chance to answer your question on the live session this afternoon. Right, so let's get started with budgets in Sage 50. So the idea of budgets, just in general, is it can I suppose it helps you to monitor your income and your costs, and therefore to help assess the profitability of an area of your business as well. Obviously, you've got things like profit and loss for your full business performance, but it helps you track that sort of performance in key areas, whether you're looking at sales or purchases or overheads, your direct expenses. It helps you track that, and obviously you can report on that as well, see how you are performing. Now, there are 4 budgeting methods in Sage 50 accounts. Now, they're split into 2. First is standard, which is what we're covering today. Now, the standard budgeting method is available in all levels of the software. So it doesn't matter whether you're on essentials, standard, or professional. You have the standard level, and it's the default method as well. The advanced method is split into 3. So there are 3 types within this as well. There's advanced by nominal code, by department overview, and department in depth. And it's those advanced options that we cover in part 2. Now, if you're sat there and you're thinking, well, I'm not sure what level of software I'm on, how would I know? Then the easiest method, if I just quickly show you, just share my screen for a second. I'm using, what am I using today? Version 29, I think it is today. But it tells you on the top here. So the very top title bar, it says Sage 50 accounts. In my case, I'm using professional, but yours may say essentials or standard. So that will give you an idea of what you're on. So the distinction on budgeting is if you're on essentials, you have standard only, but any other level, you have standard and the advanced options. Now, what I have done, if I go back to the slides for a moment, if anyone has downloaded the slides, or you're going to at some point, I've included a link there to budgeting in departments. Something that normal budgets and departments often go hand in hand when you're trying to get that extra level of analysis. It just depends what you're wanting to get out at the end of the day. So I've included a link to, you'll easily find that information in our help center anyway. Now, to set or check your method to see what you're on, we'll see. I'll show you this in just a moment when we get stuck into the demonstrations. Just in case, going into settings, company preferences, it will ask you to re-enter your password at that point, but then you'll go into the budgeting tab at the top. Now, the budgeting tab will then show you the first top box, which is budgeting method. So that's either going to say standard or advanced. Again, you'll only have the advanced option if you're on the standard level of Sage or the professional level. If you're on essentials, you'll just have standard only. Budgeting type, that will only be active if you've got advanced selected. But that's how you can check your method. So it's the standard method that we're looking at in today's session. Now, it's worth noting as well, if you've got a method set, don't just go changing it so you can see what it's like if you do use budgets already. As it mentions there, you can lose budget information when you switch method, depending what option you choose. So there is again a link there to one of our help articles about switching budgeting methods. So it'll give you an idea of the considerations and whether you are likely to lose any budgets information or not. Now, the standard method, which is what we're concentrating on in today's session, is the default. As I mentioned, it's available in all levels of 50 accounts. So as long as you've got Sage 50, it doesn't matter what level, you will have this option available. Now, it's based around your nominal codes, and it's based around monthly balances. Now, you can enter individual monthly balances. You can enter an annual total and let it divide it equally between your months. So you might not want to go too in depth. You might just think, right, well, against this nominal code, I just want to enter an annual budget. So you can do that, but it will divide it evenly between the various months. And you'll see that in the demo in just a few minutes as well. The other option for entering it as well is you can import it via the nominal accounts import option, which you would find via the file import option. But again, you'll see that one in the demonstration today as well. I think it's the people overlook that, thinking, well, you can't import budgets purely because it's in nominal accounts, and people are generally a bit worried about doing that. But it can be a quick way of getting your budgets into the software. Anuja, your question there, are you able to download the Sage demo? If you're on about this specific recording, then you'll be provided with a link to it afterwards. If it's the handout that you're after, then it's just a little link on the toolbar down the right-hand side of your screen. So that will give you a copy of the slides that we're using today. So a number of options for entering your budgets. So individual against months, annually, that will then go against the individual months, and you've got the same two options when you're importing budgets. Well, you can either import monthly balances or you can do an annual one. Now you'll be able to view your budget. It will show you the budget values against your records. Obviously, you've got your actual figures as well, and you've got your prior year figures as well. So you can see when it comes to reporting, you can compare that type of information. You can send it to Excel, that type of thing as well. So the information can be viewed as a graph within your nominal record. Not a commonly used area of the software, that one, the graphing option within nominal. You tend to find that people transfer the information into Excel because it's a lot stronger and a lot more powerful on the graphing, the graph side, or chart side, I think it's called these days. Again, I've included a link if you want information on importing as well, but I will be demoing that in the webinar today. Karen, we've only had your question and one other. You'll not see any questions today because it's just myself running the session with you all. So we don't basically for GDPR, just in case anyone puts information in there that we don't want you to see. So people tend to put email addresses and telephone numbers and things like that in there. So we don't obviously we don't publish that. So I'll just be reading them out as people submit them. Right, okay, let's crack on then. So you've got a bit of background to budgets. We'll get stuck into the demonstrations themselves. So we'll go back across to my screen and we'll start working through the various demonstrations with you. Right. Let me just find my notes there for a second. Right, okay, so you should be able to see my screen at that point. So as I mentioned, today I'm going to be I'm using Vision 29, but for what we're covering today, the process is pretty much the same, and it's been pretty much the same for many, many years now with regard to budgeting. Right, so first of all, to check your method or to set your method, what we're going to do is we're going to pop into settings at the top, company preferences, just prompts you for your password. So it's the one you use when you log in. And then we're going to go into the budgeting tab at the top there. So here it tells me my method is currently set to standard. As I mentioned, if you're on the standard level or professional level of the software, try not to get confused there as well. So we're on about the standard budgeting method, but there's also what we could term Sage 50 account standard, which is the default level, but then you've got professional as well. So if you're on standard or professional level, you'll have the drop down and you would be able to choose advanced. And if you were to choose advanced, then the budgeting type would become active. But as I say, we're just concentrating on the standard method today. So we just okay that. Now, if you pop into nominal codes, and I'm just going to click new, and then I'm going to bring up one of my sales accounts, so nominal 4,000 in this case. Now you'll see in this case, we've got this budgets column. So we've got the sort of the months of the financial year, as it were. So you've got BF or brought forward. You've got, in my case, January through to December, as that's what the financial year is set to. I've got future, which would be account for sort of the period beyond the end of your financial year. And then you've got a total in there as well. Now, if you don't have a budgets column, it's going to be for one of two reasons. One is that at some point you've right-clicked and you've seen what columns you can show or hide. So maybe you've switched it off. The other reason for that, if I switch it back on, the other reason for not having a budgets column in here is that you're actually set up for one of the advanced methods. If you set up on the advanced methods, you won't see that column because budgets are entered elsewhere. Now, as far as entering budgets, I can't do anything against brought forward or future, but I can just literally key figures against the relevant month. So if I say, right, January, my budget's going to be £2,000, I'll then just press the tab key and I can continue working down that list. So I'll say 2,500. I can then just click down. I don't have to key something into every month. It's entirely up to you. Obviously, it depends on how you work as well. And obviously, you can put in the pence there as well if needed. So nice and easy, but it is per nominal code. So just to confirm, all we've done there is we've gone into nominal codes. We've clicked new to open a blank record, and all I did was I just typed in 4,000, or I could have selected it from this drop down here. So we're just in a nominal record. And this is what it shows within the nominal record. Now, if I was happy with that, you'll see it's sort of adding up the total budget as our key figures in there. So you can see I'm up to what's that, 11,000. And if I'm happy with that, I can just click save, and that's it. It gives me a blank record. But we'll bring that one back up. Now, the other way of entering budgets, there's a few different ways of doing it, but manually entering it. The other thing you can do is you can click against the total. Now, if I key in, say, let's say 24,000, it's a nice round figure, that one. If I key that in right, need my glasses checked there. So yeah, 24,000. So it should be 2,000 each month, essentially. Now, when I key that in, if I press the tab key at that point to move out of that field, or I click out of that field, I'm going to get this confirmation message pop up. And it just says you've entered a total budget value. The program will distribute this total evenly across the individual monthly budgets, and it will overwrite any existing values that are there. Are you sure you want to set a total budget value in this way? Now, if I click no, I'm just back to where I was, and it just resets that total. But if I key that in again, and again, just tab out of the field, and this time I'm going to click yes to that prompt, you'll see what it does in the background. It gives me a total for each month, so it just divides that total by 12, basically. Just bear me 1 second there. Sorry about that. It was one of those moments when you know you're just about to choke. You can't get on mute quick enough without blasting everyone's ears. Apologies for that. Right, so that's how we can enter that annual budget in. Now, when we've entered an annual budget, we can still click against the field. It's not cast in stone. So we can still go in and we can type in whatever values we want. And again, it will just start adding up that value based on the values that we've got entered. So nice and easy to key them in. But it is on a nominal code by nominal code basis. That's something to bear in mind. Now, because of that annual method, one thing you do have in your favor as well is that if you've got budget figures there and you're thinking, well, this is a load of rubbish, we've obviously played with it at some point, you've got a few different ways of zeroing them out as well. Now, one is just to go down and start literally typing 0 against each field. Not great. The other is to click against the annual budget and just set that to 0. And as you tab out, just click yes to the prompt, and it'll obviously divide 0 evenly. So essentially it resets the budget figures against that nominal code. Now I'll just quickly key one back in so I can show you the other method as well. So we've got 1,000 against each month, so 12,000 in total. We'll just save that change. So the other method, if you've potentially dabbled with budgets in the past, or maybe a colleague has at some point, if you just want to wipe out your budget figures completely, so you're thinking, well, I don't want to get confused by, random old information that still remains there. I just want to get rid of it all and I want to reset budgets from scratch. Then what you can do is you can go to Tools, and again, all levels of the software will have this option available. So you go to Tools and then Global Changes, and there's an option for nominal budgets. Now, you can use this as a way of setting budgets as well. However, I always think the best use of this is for wiping out budgets. So we can choose nominal budgets. We can click Next, and we can just say, right, I want to select every single nominal code. You can, if you want to, you can go through and think, well, actually, maybe you only want to do your sales nominal code, so those in the 4,000 range. So you could scroll down if you wanted to and find the ones that you're after. So let's say these ones in the 4,000 range, and just sort of highlight and make your selection. Alternatively, what I can do, I just think, right, I just want to wipe them all out, is I click Swap to highlight absolutely everything. So that'll be every nominal code in my nominal ledger. And then I click Next. And then the type of change you want to specify is give figure. And I'll leave the value set to 0. So if I then click Next, it'll show me that's against nominal code 0010. Month 1, the existing value is 0, the new value will be 0. So obviously this is a great big list, this one. But if I scroll to around about 4,000, where we just keyed in those values when we were having a little play, you can see that against 4,000 here, we've got the existing value of 1,000, and with the new value based on the changes I've just made there will be 0. So if I'm happy with all of that, I just click Post. Tells me that it can't be reversed. Are you sure you wish to continue? So yes to that prompt, and that's all my budgets reset to 0 across the board. So it's a nice quick way of resetting them if you want to go down that route. So just to confirm, that was Tools, Global Changes. Not massively use Global Changes, I don't think. There's probably some better options these days, depending on what you're trying to do. But Tools, Global Changes, and then it was nominal budgets. Follow it through. I clicked Swap to highlight everything. I click Next. Rather than add amount, I said give figure. And then I want the value to be 0. And then just obviously followed that through. And that's it done. So all of my budgets are back to 0 at that point. So just to show you, if I go into nominal codes and we bring up nominal 4,000, you can see that the budget figures there are back to 0. Right, now the third option was importing budgets. So quite common when you talk about budgets, and I talk about budgets with people who are businesses that use the budgeting method, a lot of people will prepare their budgets outside of Sage. Now, it might be on an annual basis, it might be on a monthly basis, it might be a combination of the two. So what you've got is you've got the opportunity to import that information to overwrite essentially the information that's already there. And again, you can do that on a monthly or an annual basis. Now, there is a template provided for you, and you can access that template just by going to File and then Import. Now, if any of your colleagues are in the software at that point, to access import, they would need to be closed out this, or at least logged out of the company that you're trying to access this on. So anyway, we just click yes to that, and it brings up the data import wizard. So this has a number of steps that will guide you through the import. If you've never used import before, have a look at the process. Not just for budgets, I mean for things like customers, transactions, maybe products and services, as they can be quick wins, those. So if you understand the process, you might start thinking, well, actually, that information comes to me on a spreadsheet. It's coming from other software. If I can do a little preparation on it or design it so it's already in the right format, I could just import that into Sage rather than sitting keying that in again. So anyway, what we're going to do is just on step one, you've got a little link in that second paragraph that says to help you import your data templates with the correct import structure are available here. So you click the link and it should bring up a Windows Explorer window for you. And the one we're after is this nominal record full template. So it doesn't mention anything about budgets. It's the nominal record full template. If I open that, you'll see what it looks like. So this is it here. So this, traditionally, I think people would think of using this to import new nominal records, so popping in a nominal code and a name. But as well as that, you can enter an annual budget or monthly budgets using this template. So let's say I wanted to enter some budget figures and import those for nominal 4,000, even though it's an existing nominal code, that's fine. All I would do is in the reference column, I would type 4,000. I don't want to re-import a name because that already exists, so I just ignore that. Now, the difference between the colored fields as well at the top is that this sort of turquoisey aqua color, let's just call it blue for the sake of argument. If we hover over that, we get the comment box appear, and it says it's a required field, so you must enter something into that field. Yellow, on the other hand, it means it's optional, so you don't have to enter anything. But to be able to import nominal records, it must have a nominal code. Now, if I just key in a value, so again, I'll say 24,000, and that will be it. I don't need to key in monthly budgets. I'll do against nominal 4,001. Rather than the annual budget, I'll do 1,000. I'll do it on a monthly basis. Let's say 1,200, and a nice random figure. I'll do some pence on there as well. Actually, what I'll do is I'll use the time. So we'll say it's 14. What's it now? 14.27-ish. So I'll do £14. I'll not use the colon. I'll get carried away with the time there. So we've got £14.27 in month 3 against nominal 4,001. Now, when I go to the file menu, you'll see that if I try to click save, it won't let me. What I'll have to do is do a save as. And what I'll do is I'm just going to save this and I'll pop it onto my desktop so I can find it. I'll just call it MC Budgets. So I can find it, save it, and then I'll close out of it. Now, to be able to import, you must close your import file. So just to confirm how you got to that template as well, and that goes for any of the other areas, you go to File, Import, and then in that second paragraph, you've got that little link on the end. So if you click the link, it should take you into the relevant folder, and you should have a list of the import templates that are available. They are read-only, so if you open one and make changes to it, you'll need to go File, Save As, save it with a different file name. It won't let you save over the top. It just tries to protect that template for you. Right, so I think we wiped out our budgets before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import them from that file that that template file that I've just used. So into File, Import. As I say, it's what import, a bit like things like year end, or if you're clearing audit trail, it's what you would term a program exclusive request. It means that you need to be the only one logged into this company to access that option. So if someone else was logged in, it would say you can't access this because such and such is logged in. Right, so step 1, backup. Take a backup. I don't care how confident you are, take your backup. If you do something wrong, maybe it's something as simple as importing the wrong file, or you import it twice, something along those lines. The easiest way to undo that sort of thing is by restoring. So if you take a backup right now and you make a mistake, you can always restore back to this exact point in time. It's nothing worse than someone importing, say, 2 sets of transactions and it's the same thing, they do it twice. Or if they import the wrong set of transactions, it's an old file that they import by mistake. And then they'll contact us and say, right, how can I undo that? You say, well, have you got a backup? No, right, in which case you've got to do it manually. So sometimes that can be quite time consuming. So take your backup, just the normal backup routine that it takes you through. I'm going to skip it just for a little bit of speed. So once you've done your backup, you click next, choose what it is you want to import. So in my case, I want to import nominal accounts. Click next. You then choose your file type. So mine is I'm using one of the templates, so it's an Excel file. Obviously, you can have it as a CSV file as well. So we'll click Browse. Now I called mine, that one there, MC Budgets. So that's the one I want to import. So I'll select your file, just be a case of browsing for it. Now, this one will say first row contains headings. So in my Excel file, I'm using a template. So that first row along the top, it did contain headings. So I'll leave it ticked. I'll show you what that looks like if you're not using headings in a few minutes. Now, if you're using your own template, your own spreadsheet, if it's got multiple worksheets within it, then you will get a further drop down. The templates don't contain additional worksheets. So I think by default, if you're using an Excel file, you get 3 worksheets within the workbook itself. So if you did have more than one sheet, it would just ask you, right, which sort of tab or which worksheet contains the information you want to import. So you just get an extra drop down here. So I'll click next. It then takes me onto the field mappings. Now, this is what gives the import its flexibility. So basically, these are the fields, the Sage fields, that you can import into. And this is in this case, it's the titles or the column headings from the import file. Now, if you've got different titles, and you'll see that on my demonstration in a moment as well, where you've used different titles, just a case of saying, right, well, the reference that Sage requires, so in this case, the nominal code, you would just click on the drop down and choose the relevant column of your file that contains that nominal code. And then it would just be a case of mapping the other fields accordingly. Because you use the templates, obviously it maps everything automatically for you. If there's anything on there you think, well, actually, I don't want to import that, what you can do is just leave it blank. The only one that's required on a nominal record import is this one at the top, the reference, which is essentially the nominal code. Right, so we're going to click next. We're on to step 5, which is essentially the summary. Click import. And then it tells me these are the records that have been imported. Now, obviously, it may take a lot longer than that on yours, depending how much you do import. But just let it run. You get a little progress bar and it'll start ticking along as it's importing the information. So anyway, that's the process for me. That's it complete. So I'll close out of that and go to nominal codes and bring up a blank record. And I'll just type in 4,000. And you'll see that 24,000 that I keyed in as an annual figure. It's imported that as the annual total, but it's then divided it equally between the various months. If we choose nominal 4001, which was the other nominal code, but this time I entered 3 monthly budget figures. So the 1,000, the 1,200, and what was the time at the time was £14.27. And obviously it just calculates that total for me. Now, even if I've imported, I can still go in and I can click against the various fields and I can start overwriting values if I want. Even the imported values, I can overtype those as well if I want. So you've got a number of different ways of getting budget figures entered into the software. Samantha, your question there was to do with work in progress and applications for payments. We're not covering that today. If you've got questions not relating to the webinar, please get in, either search our help centre or do get in touch with our support team. Anuja, you mentioned there you would like to practice the budgets before actually doing it in Sage. Is there any way you can do that? I'll come on to that in a few minutes' time. You'd be pleased to hear about that one. So you can have a go without impacting on your live company. So anyway, we've covered the main three methods there for entering your budgets. Now beyond that, obviously you're just entering your transactions as normal. There's no difference in that respect. But one of the important things with budgets is, right, what information can I get on the back of it? What is it? What level of information do you require? So that will determine, I suppose, which of the methods that you're going to be using. Now, reporting wise, if I go back to the slides for a moment, reporting wise for the standard method, you'll find the majority of the reports within the nominal codes area. So on the toolbar along the top, you've got things like your comparative P&L reports, or as it's termed, compare P&L. That's the name of the icon. You've got the variances report. And also within nominal codes, you can go into reports and you've got an option called nominal budgets. And that's in addition to, of course, going into the nominal record itself just to have a look at the figures so you can compare the figures side by side. Now I've highlighted a couple of resources for you there as well. So if you're on version 30 or higher, then you've got the report finder, which is built into your software. And if you don't want to go down that route, or you're on version 29 or below, within our help center, you've got the Which Report Guide as well. So both excellent options for helping you to find the report you're after, not just for budgets, for whatever it is you're after in the software. There's that many reports in Sage. Probably one of the most common reporting type support queries is, right, I want a report that shows this and this. Where do I find that? And it's trying to get at the information. So that's what these resources do. You can pop in some keywords and they'll say, right, well, based on that, these are the likely reports you need. It'll outline the report, its description, and where you're going to find that in your software. So do use those resources. Again, if you've downloaded the handouts, those links will work for you. But otherwise, just have a look in our help center. Let's have a quick look at the reports and how you access them though. So if I just quickly go back to my screen for a moment. And the key reports, you've got your comparative P&L. So I just click that one and I'll click run. Again, the compare P&L option, it's available in all levels of the software. So this one's just like running a P&L report. You run it for whatever period you want. So my financial year on this set of data is actually set in 2024. Choose your chart of accounts, and then you would choose for your budget figures, what is it you want to show? Do you not want to show your budget figures? Do you want to show them? Do you want to show them with a variance calculation, which will give you a value? So difference between your actuals and your budget figure. Or do you want to show both a variance as a value and as a percentage? So I'll choose that option. I'll get rid of the prior year figures. I'll not show that one just to avoid any confusion. So I'll just OK that. Now this one, when it previews, it's in an absolute tiny font because there's so much information for it to generate. But let's zoom right in, and this will give you a bit of an idea anyway about the kind of information that gets included. So the actual figure is based on your actual column, just like running a P&L report basically. Hopefully you are familiar with that one. If not, I've got some good news for you coming up. I'll tell you about some of our upcoming webinars in a few minutes. So you've got your actual figures for, in this case, the relevant period. You've got your budget figures, again, for the relevant period that you've specified. You've got a budget variance. So in this case, it's my actual less the budget. And then you've got that variance percentage as well. So that's one of the reports. Next report will just be the variances, what is termed the budget report. So this would be in a much bigger font this time. I say much bigger, but at least it's legible if you do zoom in, so you can see the width of the paper this time. Again, you might think, well, actually, what I want to do is I just want to send that type of information to Excel. So, once you've previewed it, you could send the report to Excel. You could send the data to Excel. Just depends. Again, depends what you're after. But it essentially gives you that same information that we've essentially just looked at. Just again, depends what you're after. Other reports, when you're on the standard budgeting method, is within nominal codes. If you go to reports, and then you'll have an option called nominal budgets. And there's some additional reports in here as well. Now, not all reports are compatible with all budgeting versions. So for instance, if anyone is set up for the standard method, the comparative P&L and the variances option, they won't work for you. You'll be able to run the report, but it won't show you your budget figures. They're not compatible with the advanced methods. So we will be covering advanced budgets this time next week. I think it's this time next week. I'll see if I can check that for you in a minute. But have a good look through. As I say, there's a number of great resources for you. So do check out the report finder if you're on version 30 or version 31. And also within our help center, you've got the Which Report Guide as well. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of an insight into the budgeting options that you've got available. Now, the question from Anuja, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right as well, from earlier was, I would like to practice the budgets before actually doing it in my actual Sage. So what options have you got? Well, you've got two main options. When you go into Sage, you're normally presented with two options. One is demonstration data, one is practice data. You can also, if you are already in Sage, you can just go to File, Open, and then you'll have the two options as well. And if you are prompted, the default logon for them is Manager. Now, with demonstration data, I'll just quickly show you this one. So I'll access it from my live company, as it were. If I go to File and then Open, and then you've got the two options listed here. So if I go into Demo Data, just click Yes. And you'll not notice much change there, but I am in this fictitious company now, Stationery and Computer Mart UK. Now, what it means is I can go into customers, there's dummy data in there that I can start playing around with. So that's one option for you. Obviously, there's suppliers in there, there's transactions, bank accounts, invoices, just allowing you to have a play around with that. Now, if you're on version 31, so let me pop into version 31. Let's give that a chance to open. So if you're in version 31, when you access the practice company, let me just log in as normal first. When you access the practice company, so you could access the demo company in exactly the same way, but on this version, when you go to the practice data, you will be prompted with this one. Now, prior to version 31, it always just went into a blank company. So it means that you can have a go of options within your software using a blank set of data. So it starts from scratch. But with this one, what you can do is you can say, right, I want to use my data. So we'll select it, and then all you would do is you would browse for your backup file, continue, and it would essentially restore a copy of your data into the practice company. It means you can have a play around with that. So you can see things like, what would budgets look like against, if I was to use it against a copy of my data? So maybe data that you are familiar with rather than the demonstration company. The only word of warning with that one is that when you close out of the practice company, it does reset that. So it resets it back. So next time you come in, you will again be prompted, do you want to use blank data or do you want to use your copy of your own data? So you would need to, again, restore. And obviously that would take all of that data back to wherever it was at the time. Let's just cancel out of that one. So a couple of resources for you if you are wanting to have a go of that before you go live on your company. It's a great learning resource as well. If you've got anyone that's new to Sage, it's a good way of letting them have a play around with Sage and helping them to almost like get up and running. Well, it means you can try different options within the software, particularly if it's new to the company as a whole. You know, let's say you're on the professional level and you start using the projects area, then you might want to experiment with a little bit before you go live. Right, now, if you've got any questions for me, I'll try and pick up the other questions in just a moment. So if you weren't quite with us at the beginning of the session, if you've got any questions, just click the little speech bubble icon and then you'll have access to the little box in the bottom corner. So pop in your comments, your questions. Remember to click send and I'll try and pick them up in just a moment. Remember, there is that opportunity to download a copy of the slides if you want it. However, you will find detailed information available within our help center. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning as well, the webinar is recorded. So a link to today's recording will be included on your follow-up email. There was also a question from Joe earlier as well. How do we sign up for next week's advanced budget webinar? So again, a link will be included on that email so that you can register for our upcoming webinars. Keep the links handy as well because they're always the same links. The registration page, it's the same. Or alternatively, you can just open your browser and head along to sage.co.uk/webinars. That would get you there as well. And the final link that will be included on that follow-up email is a link to our recordings. Now, I did mention the Help Centre quite a bit in today's session, so loads of information in there. That's where you'll find the details, sort of step-by-step guides to support you with budgets if needed. Some exciting news though. So what we got coming up? We've now got webinars available to book onto for Copilot. So Copilot is like a digital AI assistant, almost like your first step into using AI within Sage 50 accounts. If you want to see what's that all about, so maybe you've already received your email saying that it's about to be activated on your account. So if you are intrigued by that and you want to see what you can get from it, then head along and get yourself signed up. Again, that link will be included on your follow-up email. Or if you've downloaded the handout, that register now option will work. So Copilot, it's additional help, almost like running reports for you in the background and giving you prompts to help you manage debt, manage stock, monitor your business performance or profitability, that type of thing, trying to identify maybe processing errors. So that type of thing. If you want to find out more, please get yourself all registered for one of those sessions. As I say, it's probably going to be your first step into integrating AI within your software. It's not going to do anything automatically other than essentially produce some figures. It doesn't write anything into your accounts. I know that's quite a big concern for most, is that is it just autonomous, and will it just crack on with doing everything for me? Some of you will think, oh, that's great. Others think, I don't want it doing that. It's not going to do that, not yet anyway. So if you want to find out what it's capable of as it stands, get yourself signed up. Those webinars start on, I think it's on Thursday next week, when we got our first session booked in for that one. Now that brings me to the end of the session. There is the management reports badge sessions as well, so that links in quite nicely with budgets to quite closely linked as well. So our management report sessions will start on the last day of this month, the 31st. They'll run for 2 weeks. So we're going to be covering things like creating nominal codes, looking at the chart of accounts, the management reports, running your management reports for a future year. So if you haven't yet run your financial year end yet, and the common query in that sort of scenario is, well, how do I run a P&L for my next financial year? So we'll cover that. We'll be looking at reconciling your aged debtors and aged creditors at year end. So what do you need to do with that, and sort of identifying the common reasons why they might be different. And then finally, Abby's going to be taking you through the business dashboard, and then there is a quiz on top of that as well. So earn your digital badge for that one. Again, the links are included on the follow-up email, which you'll receive in around about an hour's time. So Joe, just watch out for your email. It's got the link on that you need. Right, if you're about to leave, many thanks. I hope you've enjoyed today's session. It's given you a bit more insight into the budgeting area and what you can do with the standard budgets option. For anyone that's on standard or professional, if you want to find out more about the advanced budgeting methods, or maybe even if you're on essentials and you're thinking, well, I would like to find out what you can do on that as well. It might be another sort of tick in the box to maybe upgrade to a higher level of CH50. Then do get yourself signed up. So many thanks for coming along. If you can take a minute to complete the little survey that pops up as you leave, so give us a score, rate the webinar, share any thoughts, ideas, any suggestions you've got for topics you'd like to see covered. I've been doing webinars for years, and every month we sit there and go, right, well, what could we do that's new? Sometimes we struggle because we've covered that many topics over the years, so you get loads of repeats. But if you've got any thoughts, do share them with us. That'd be greatly appreciated if you can take just a minute to complete that survey. Follow-up email, that will be with you in round about an hour's time. Now, I'm going to quickly go back to a couple of questions that I've got from earlier. So one was from Melissa. Melissa, I can still see you that you're still there. It's excellent. So I'll just quickly pick up your question. Melissa's question was, do I have to run a year end before importing budgets? So on the standard method, you've got one set of budgets only. So it doesn't matter what financial year you're in. So if I set up some budgets now, let's say end of March was my financial year, I could set up budgets now against January, February, March, against say April, May, June for what will be my new financial year. And they can just stay in place when I run a year end. So it will just start picking those up. The advanced method, however, it does have specific periods. So as well as sort of budgets for your current financial year, you can also set what you term a forecast year as well. So that when you run a year end, it moves on to your next set of budgets. Or you can just leave your existing budgets in place on that one as well. So you can start entering them in advance. But bear in mind, if you use budgets already, you'll be overriding your existing budgets if you're on the standard method. If you're not sure about that one, do speak to our support team or drop me an email. You can reply to any of the webinar emails that still currently come to myself. So I'll drop you a message back with that one. Right, let me have a quick scan. I think we've picked up all the questions we have at that point. Sorry, question from Anuja as well. Do you have a webinar for cash flow? There is one, not a live one, but there is a recording of when we've run that previously. We tend not to repeat that one because basically we didn't get many people turning up for that one. People do ask for it here and there, but when we advertise it, you tend to find it's people want it there and then, as and when they're interested, but we tend to find that it's quite low registrations on that one. So the recording is available though. Again, the link will be included on your follow-up email. Should be in the bank account section, that one, for cash flow. Right, okay. Lots of people disappearing, so we're just about ready to end the webinar. Once again, many thanks for coming along. Hopefully I'll see you on some other webinars soon. And if you can take just that minute to complete that survey, it'd be greatly appreciated. So take care, and hopefully I'll see you very soon on some more webinars. Many thanks.